Please welcome from way down under, YouTube's hottest late night host, Lou! Late night with Lou!
Hello and welcome. Glad to have you with us. Out of this world, as always, to have you with us. We ended last episode on a rather jarring note. The fact that as though it weren't insults enough, that we had to, or let's say as though it weren't injury enough, to borrow from the human phrase, as though it weren't injury enough for the angels to be asked to worship an inferior being and to serve that being. To that injury was added the insult that we revere, call queen, and serve yet another inferior being, and this one purely inferior. No divinity attached to her nature. The woman. Who is the woman? You know, all I can tell you is that she tends to show up and steal my best scenes in Scripture. Here's Genesis 3:15, where we first hear of her. She doesn't exist yet, but she's prophesied. And she steals the show. I'm sure you'll agree with that. Genesis 3:15. Well, let's take it up just a little bit. Genesis 3:14, where someone has outsmarted your original ancestors in the proverbial garden. They've rebelled in pride and fallen. Yes, the human race did fall. You ended up dying because of what happened. So it's fair to say you fell, and all creation with you. And because of my trick, well, it had consequences, as you know, for all of us. This is Genesis 3:14. Then the Lord said to the snake, well, to Lucifer, because you have done this, cursed are you among all the animals, tame or wild. On your belly you shall crawl, and dust shall you eat all the days of your life. Genesis 3:15. I will put enmity between you and the woman. What woman? The one I just tricked? No. I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your offspring and hers. They will strike at your head while you strike at their heel. All right, there are other translations of this passage. I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your offspring and hers. He will strike at your head, and you will strike at his heel. And there are even images from the Catholic mystical tradition of the woman herself striking at my head while I strike at her heel. That's where she first shows up in Scripture, okay, is in that reference, is in that prophecy. It's not about Eve. Not about Eve. Eve's done. She was tempted and she fell. Enmity between me and the woman, created by God. A God-created enmity. All right. Let's go to Revelation 12, 1 through to whenever I quit reading, to see how that enmity plays out. Bookends here. The start of Scripture, the end of Scripture, and some of my best scenes, and then comes this leading lady who, as I say, steals every scene. Chapter 12 of Revelation, verse 1 until whenever I quit. A great sign appeared in the sky, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. She was with child and wailed aloud in pain as she labored to give birth. Then another sign appeared in the sky. It was a huge red dragon, with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on its head were 7 diadems. Pardon me, I'm just smiling at the description. It pleases me so. Its tail swept away 1/3 of the stars in the sky and hurled them down to the earth. The dragon has power. Then the dragon stood before the woman about to give birth, to devour her child. When she gave birth to a son, a male child, destined to rule all the nations with an iron rod. That is a reference to his priesthood but we're not going to get into that tonight. Her child was caught up to God and his throne. He certainly was. The woman herself fled into the desert, where she had a place prepared by God, and there she might be taken care of for 1260 days. When the dragon saw that it had been thrown down to earth, it pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child. But the woman was given the two wings of a great eagle, so that she could fly to her place in the desert, where, far from the serpent, she was taken care of for a year, 2 years, and half a year. The serpent, however, spewed out a torrent of water out of his mouth after the woman to sweep her away with the current. But the earth helped the woman and opened its mouth and swallowed the flood that the dragon spewed out of its mouth. Then the dragon became angry with the woman, you think, and went off to wage war against the rest of her offspring, those who keep God's commandments and bear witness to Jesus. It took its position on the sand of the sea. As I say, she steals my best scenes. So it was one thing for us to be asked to worship and serve God in human form, God in a hybrid form that included, sorry, just one moment, pneumonia. Yeah, pneumonia, I haven't even been able to say hello yet. Well, you have good reason to be excited. It sounds awesome. It sounds awesome. Yes, I can hear the salsa band in the hip hop band in the background. The salsa band has taken a break. For the extended cocktail hour. Well, so tell me, what's going on? Who's with who? Okay, the men are together talking business. All of them? Rupert, Pierre, Mr. Lowe, Victor, Pierre's the lawyers from his company. Oh my gosh, I wonder if they're talking about mergers and acquisitions or possibly the sale of Rupert's firm. I don't know about, and foreign buyers. The SEC is going to get involved with that. Oh, and Christopher's there too. God bless him. Poor little guy. Oh, and Trixie's there. Well, no wonder Christopher is there, listening in on the big boys talk about Daddy possibly selling. Trixie's there in her garnets and her diamonds and her black chiffon, and poor little Christopher. I wonder what Trixie thinks of the possibility of Rupert selling. I mean, where does that leave her? She works for him. She works for she works for him, right? She drinks champagne on the job and has lobster bisque and caviar for lunch for him, and gets paid a very fat salary for it. And she occasionally goes out on marketing jaunts because she's an advertisement all by herself. But I wonder what she thinks of him selling, because where does that leave her? She's then working for somebody else, and she's just his mistress. I wonder if she'd be satisfied with that. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. But meanwhile, she's the one sparkler among that very dull group. What's going on with everybody else? The younger children, for instance. Faith is flirting with the bartenders, of which there are 4. The Lows weren't messing around and hiring those, bringing in those contract players, so to speak, to serve this party. The number of people on board has swelled to more than 70. Wow. Well, they need those 4 bartenders. And they're flirting with chartreuse-haired Faith. Dear Faith, it's interesting. A waiter in New York, the bartenders at the Hemingway bar, now the bartenders on the low. This girl, she goes with the lower orders, doesn't she? Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, a Stanford heiress, with an MA in art history. But, well, I don't mind the lower orders so much myself, actually. And Gabriel. Getting high with the salsa group who are on their break. Got it. Okay. And where's Liz? Is she lost in that crowd of 70 or 80 people? Oh, she's with Mrs. Lowe again. They're alone, strolling the promenade deck. And they're talking about jewels. Well, Mrs. Lowe is an expert in that department, famous for her diamonds, but many other things as well. She loves all the precious stones, all the semi-precious stones. It's true she favors some of the subtler pieces. She's in jade earrings, jade bracelets, and simple golden strings around her throat tonight. No, it's true. She can pull the subtle look off quite well. She can pull any look off quite well. Mrs. Lowe would look good in a garbage bag. And Liz, I suppose, is in her trademark turquoise or amber or maybe pearls. She is so dull. Ah, blue topaz. She must be feeling festive. A pity Liz just doesn't go for the flashier rocks. You know, Mrs. Lowe has literally millions of dollars in jewels. Millions. Her husband is quite abstemious when it comes to spending money on things like staff for his yacht. But whatever Mrs. Lowe wants, she gets in terms of her wardrobe. The most outrageous expenses on the most precious stones. A few ounces of compressed carbon. Where did human beings ever get the idea that this thing, this diamond, this ruby, this emerald, should be equated with something of enormous value? Where, I mean, you know, murders happen over jewels. I mean, it's so much fun when they love material things the way the Lowes do. The way Trixie does, right. Right. The good that could be accomplished, my dear. Yes, the good that could be accomplished with all that money spent on a few ounces of compressed carbon. Just like all that money spent on a tub in Monte Carlo Harbor. What's that? Liz and Mrs. Lowe's attention have been caught by the next door. Oh, Victor's yacht. They're looking at Victor's yacht from the promenade deck. Yeah, it's only a couple hundred feet away, right across the moonlit waters. Well, what's music and the sounds of a party on Victor's yacht? And Victor is partying with the Lowes. Well, that's his crew. That's the party crew. That's Victor hires people who amuse him. That revelous crew of his, drinking, laughing, toasting together, that's what they do. And they do it when Boss is there too. Well, it sounds altogether like a nice evening on the French Riviera. And yes, as everyone's going into dinner, just hover, advise the guardian demons as they may need to bring about temptations such as they present themselves. And yeah, and let me know what the Lowes are serving. All right, good work, Demonia. Keep it up. We've got $245 million to make up. I'm gonna do it one way or another. All right. That's my girl. Talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Well, I'll talk to you again soon, but I can't right now. We didn't finish yesterday in Caracas, and I've got to go back. So I will be back in Venezuela for yet another round of discussions about new torture techniques. Well, there's money to be made in that too, you know, and in prisons. There's money to be made everywhere. If only Luz could understand that. For her, it's all about spending. That's what money is for. To be spent. And not foolishly. Well, as I say, we've got lots of possibilities going on that yacht right now in Monte Carlo. I'll be back. Stay with us.